If you love racing, if you really love racing, you'll love Laguna Seca. If you're looking for gear that never fails you, and I'm serious because I've had gear that fails me, look at SIMAGIC. And if you want a rig that you will never have to second guess or doubt, go check out MANSKE Racing and Performance. Welcome into qualifying, and as per usual, this is less of a lap guide and more of just me kind of showing you the track so that you know what corners I'm referencing as we go through these races. So this is technically corner 2. It looks like corner 1, but this is technically corner 2, and I will be referring to it as such. Double apex there into corner 3, which is a fairly standard right-hander on paper, but it's actually a bit longer of a corner than you expect. Just barely braking on the curb for turn 4, which is a super fast right-hander. Not as long of a corner as 3, and it leads to one of my favorite corners on the track, corner number 5, braking at that white line between the 3 and the 2, really getting into the camber and getting on throttle as early as you can, and it will pull you all of the way around. Heading towards 6, super fast, downhill left-hander, just a little bit of brake to get the nose bit in. I honestly broke too much there, and it's really important you carry a lot of speed because look at this huge hill I'm going up as I head towards the corkscrew. One of the most fun corners in the world. It's like a downhill chicane, and look at this, just getting on power. As soon as you find that compression, it fires you out and into Rainy Curve, which is this really long left-hander. Really interesting compression you can use there. You don't actually have to open it up all the way on entry. Really fast right-hander, which is the penultimate corner there, corner number 10, and into 11, the final corner. Again, seems fairly standard, but there is a interesting kind of decompression right before the apex, so you have to be really careful with your steering, and it's important you get a good run out of there because it is a very long straight until corner number 2 again, which is corner number 1 technically. It's this hairpin coming up. First lap was a 24.262, not terrible. Second lap, I needed to go better because I really felt like I should be in the 23s. My goal for qualifying was like a 23.8, 23.9. This was my first race, so I didn't really know where the pace would stand. And the second lap was definitely feeling much faster, but I'm going to throw it all away as I go through corner number 4 here and just get on the power a little bit too early, understeering off the track, and that will disqualify that lap from counting. So we have to go with our first time, which was a 24.262, and that put us, well, before we actually get to where that put us, I want to give a huge shout out to Ryan, who was extremely fast here. He's starting in P3, and he's running the classic pole racing PB&J livery. If you guys want to run this, I just put it up on Trading Paints as a token of appreciation, just for the community, and I want people to run it. It's a fun livery. We were starting in 9th, so way back on the grid, P9, but I felt like I could move forward. Green flag is out, and we are underway. Get a really good launch, but kind of blocked in between Jacob Blizzard and Santiago Cordone. I believe that's how you say that. So I'm just going to stay on the inside. He actually opens up the inside for a minute and then closes it back up. Didn't really want me to take that, and I agree. Ryan is killing P2 as we say that, and P2 will go flying across, which actually separates Jacob Blizzard from us. So we move kind of up 1 position or 2 positions. We are up into P7, and then up ahead, Matthew Deschini's running into the back of Cameron Dick here, and we'll get on board with him to see him just kind of tap that rear bumper of Cameron. Slides out, collects Santiago with him, and that'll put us up into P5. So we have made some huge gains simply by staying alive. We do have Eduardo pretty close on our tail, but we do have the slipstream from Cameron as well ahead of us, and I felt fairly confident on this track in my pace when I was on it. If you've watched the channel for a long time, you've probably seen that I die a lot. I make some stupid mistakes, I get into wrecks, and I feel like I've been doing really good at not getting into wrecks, not dying, even if I'm giving up positions recently. I'm finishing races, which was really good. I was happy about. Now going across the line at the end of lap 1, we're still in P5. The relative says P9. It's not right. We're in P5. Eduardo is pretty close behind us, and we're going to hop on board with him as we go on to lap number 2, get a little bit of his POV so you can see how much I overbrake for T1, and I think I get scared of the gravel, kind of release my brakes, go deep, and then I'm sliding out, losing time, losing traction. Eduardo is ready to take the leap of faith into turn number 3, and he's going to send it. Good place to make a move. He does go a bit wide and kind of knocks us out a bit, which was unfortunate because I think you can pretty easily make that one work too wide safely. That opens up the door for Jacob Blizzard, who slides back through, and we have now fallen from P5 to P7, and it's about to be P8 as Julian, car number 3, looks to go up my inside into T5, and I'm just gonna let it happen. The mighty have fallen at this point. I just don't care about trying to fight for that position. I just lost, I mean, I lose 2, I just give up the 3rd one, and then I almost drive off the track through turn 6. I was really on a downhill slope. Like, my momentum was totally gone. However, I was staying with these guys, and it would kind of come back as on lap number 3, Eduardo is going to drive off of the track in turn 3, and then for a reason unbeknownst to me, he just seems to not want to drive anymore. He's going extremely slow on the straight towards turn number 5 and is not going to speed up at all. Maybe his pedal got stuck in gear. Maybe he couldn't shift up. That might have been it. Not quite sure, but I am happy about it. Goodbye, Eduardo. And we move back up into P7. However, with Eduardo at the front of this group, he dropped quite a bit of time to Cameron Dick. So Jacob in P5 now has a 3-second gap to Cameron, which is kind of what I was worried about. And I should have tried to fight Eduardo harder because I think I could have stayed with Cameron a bit better. It looks like Jacob up ahead of us went pretty deep into the corkscrew. I was hoping that would pull Julian back, and it kind of did, but then I also kind of just sat behind Julian and lost even more time. I probably could have looked for a move into Rainy Curve there. He was overslowing a bit on entry, but I just lost 3 positions. I want to play it safe, and realistically, my best hope right now is going to be P5 because Cameron is so far ahead of Jacob at this point. He's like 4 seconds up the road from Jacob. I'm not even worried about trying to catch Cameron anymore, which was kind of freeing. It's nice to realize that my fight is not for the lead of the race. It's not for the podium. It's for the 2 people ahead of me. That is where my fight is focused. And this is a mentality that I don't advise you adapt for every race, but if it's like your first race of the week or you're just not totally confident in the track, you can see me sliding out on the final corner there, I think it's a good idea to just pick your battles carefully. So I wanted to see what the pace was of Julian up ahead and Jacob up ahead of him. Julian going very deep into T2, the hairpin there, and I'm actually going to look to go alongside him on the outside of T3, not where you want to be. So I'm going to back out early, look to get a better run out, and that's going to send Julian deep there. So I actually get the switchback done very nicely. I'm pretty much an entire car ahead at T4, and I'm going to slide through. He's going to stay behind, and that puts me up into P6. Now, Jacob did pull away a bit in that time because the fighting obviously is going to make us go slower. So we have 2 seconds until Jacob now. I felt pretty good though. I had been following him for a while and saw that he wasn't super fast. It did take us quite a while to catch up to him though. Lap 13, and we are half a second off of him, so we've gained about 1.5 seconds in that time. We're just about in the prime range of slipstream as well, which is super nice. Dirty air does affect you on some of these faster corners, T5 and T6 for example, sometimes Rainy Curve if you're too close as well, and you can kind of see it here. I also turn in a bit late, but the car does not bite as hard initially as I would have liked it to there through the corkscrew, and Jacob is, I would say, overslowing for the corkscrew, which was good. That was one of my weaker corners. So when I saw that somebody else was like over abusing the brakes compared to me, it was a good sign in my head that this is somewhere, if I do get in front of this person, I could definitely pull away from them. Because if you're slower through the corkscrew, it's very hard to pull away from somebody because it puts them on your tail going around this final sector, which leads to a pretty long straight heading down to T2. Now, come the final lap, we still had not gotten around Jacob. I was really just waiting for an opportunity to appear, and it never really did, and I wasn't trying to pry anything open either, which perhaps I should have. But as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to stay alive and just consistently finish races. Trying to make a move on the last lap makes a lot of sense, but it's also when the hardest defense is going to be put up. So I accepted my fate. P6 it was. We had almost 1 second behind Julian. I felt pretty confident in that, and we're lifting as I thought we were crossing the finish line. But apparently we had 1 more lap, and I misread it, so this is the final lap, and that lost me a decent amount of time, probably 2 or 3 tenths to Julian. However, I guess he messes up the hairpin because he falls back off a little bit. So I wasn't really worried about Julian, but I was kind of sad that I didn't realize I had 1 more lap to try and make a move on Jacob. And that gap was one that I wasn't able to close in 1 lap. I'm talking a lot about my pace like I'm some amazing driver at Laguna, but I really was not that fast. I was doing low 24s mostly, almost killing Jacob as we crossed the line there, securing P6. I didn't know which way he was going to go. That was the end of that one, and we did go green at the very least. We gained IR and safety rating, but Ryan, the one who I mentioned was driving that PB&J livery, was flying. And every time this track comes around, he's just ridiculously fast. This was, I think, the first day or second day of the track, and he was doing mid 23s fairly consistently. Green in both areas, like I said, good results for us. Wasn't upset about that one. Into my first lap of the next race for qualifying, and I'm going to drive off the track at T6. That will disqualify that lap. Gives me one more chance to secure, I don't even want to say a good lap. After I mess up the first lap like that and I only have one left, I typically underdrive the car quite a lot, and that is exactly what I was doing. I did not want to risk getting another off track and having to start at the back of the pack, because this is a fairly difficult track to make overtakes if somebody has similar pace to you, and I didn't want to have to battle my way through an entire field. So through turn 6, really scared of getting the off track there and really underdriving it for that reason. This lap as a whole was not fantastic, but so far there hadn't been an off track, so it was good in my book, good enough. Through the penultimate corner, actually a really easy place to go off track on the exit, so I'm kind of hesitating on my throttle input there, and we bring it home pretty cleanly. Not fantastic, a little bit of oversteer on the final corner, but that's honestly not a bad thing. 24.096, better than my last quali, and good enough in this lobby for P4. Right behind Ryan, who must have also messed up his lap, because he was doing 23.6s, I'd say 23.5s, all the way down to like 3s or 4s in quali. He was much, much faster in quali than I was. And underway, flag is green, huge run off the line for us. We are under no pressure from behind, or so I thought. Going into T2, they're too wide ahead of me, slowing me down a bit. I wasn't that worried, but Jason Betts, car number 21, finding that space honestly really well through T2, which puts us too wide into T3, and I have the inside. I felt pretty confident on this, but I get a little bit too much on throttle with the cold tires, slides me out, and he's going to look to go underneath me into T4. I let the space stay. I honestly probably could have stuck that one around the outside if I had been a little bit less hesitant on my inputs, and now I'm side by side fighting over P6, and I'm going to maintain P5, thank God. So we have fallen quite far off of Ryan already at this point, which was really unfortunate. And you saw the lap times Ryan was doing in the last race. I didn't think I would be able to catch him, so I was just going to take my time and try and get around Jason whenever the opportunity opened itself up. Now going into the corkscrew, I almost fucking die here. Car number 10 launching it up the inside, 2 cars behind me, almost fucking kills me, does absolutely swipe the car behind me off of the track, and we did live. We got through there just fine, which was great. I'll show you my POV here. You can see that I saw him in my mirrors and kind of got scared with my steering there, ultimately pulling me off of Jason by quite a bit. We lose about 6 or 7 tenths to Jason there, which was unfortunate, and just further opened up that gap between myself and the top 3. Ryan currently being in P2, and that gap was, I mean, it was already past the point of where I thought I could close it up, but now it was truly gone. So I'm just focusing on Jason Betts. P4 isn't a bad place to be. It's not a podium, but you know, it's as good as you can get sometimes. Almost dying through T5 there as I oversteered. Pretty easy to do when you're really trying to push it through that corner, and that would continue to keep me off of Jason for a little bit longer. Final corner at the end of lap 2, Jason completely missing the apex, which allows us to not only get a better run, but also close up time through the mid corner there. So we should be closing up time all of the way till T2. Now we are being chased down by Charlie Jameson, who is half a second behind us. So we've got half a second ahead, half a second behind. However, Jason missing the apex for T2 there, and that's going to put us even closer to him. We are definitely in range now to try and send something. It could be a T4 or a T5 send, or probably a T5. We're a bit too far back at the moment, and honestly T5 is a really good place to make an overtake. Seems like we got a slightly better run there initially, but I did have to do some correcting in my steering, which kind of killed that run. It would be a dive, and it's not one I'm going to make. Just gonna sit back, and he pushes out a bit wide, I think, because I did look to go in there early, and I'm peeping up the inside for T6 now, trying to scare him off of it. doesn't really do much there. Charlie Jameson is closing up all of the while, as these little feints that I'm doing that I'm not committing to are slowing down Jason. It's getting him looking in his mirrors, which I am limited to Jason's pace. So if I'm not going to make a move, it might not be the smartest thing for me to keep doing that, as it would open up an opportunity for Charlie to catch up to me. Through Rainy Curve, and I realize he's doing the super wide line on entry, which I don't think really benefits you, but it does make it kind of awkward as the car behind, because it makes you want to send that move there, and I just don't want to spend any more time here, so I'm gonna fucking chip it into the final corner. He missed this apex on the last lap, and the space is afforded. I mean, it was a bit of a late dive, but Nose was alongside with his rear tire before we even got to the apex. I would say that was clean, and he did very, very well to give us space. Charlie is closing up pretty quickly, and we're too wide heading into T2. He's on the outside. Very, very, very difficult to make this work around the outside, so I'm expecting him to back off early and look for a switchback, or in this case, turn in late and look for a switchback, which is exactly what he's doing. I get on throttle early enough that I'm safe here, and I think he got on throttle actually too early with not enough angle, so it puts him at a disadvantage going into T3, and Charlie Jameson taking advantage of it, pulling up ahead, and it looks almost like he's going to look for the switchback into T4, but does not quite get that done, and that has pulled them pretty clear of me, so I am in P4 now with a second behind me, 3.5 seconds to Rodrigo ahead. And Rodrigo, if you've never seen him before, I'll just tell you, super fast driver, also very consistent driver, and I wasn't expecting to be able to catch him this race with that type of gap. And I really wasn't. By the time the final lap rolled around, we were totally on an island. 5-second gap to Rodrigo ahead, and 11-second gap to Jason behind, who'd been fighting with Charlie this entire race. So their pace was just pretty limited by each other. And look at the island I'm on, just totally by myself, which was good. I got to kind of explore the track a bit more this race, and basically treated it as practice, crossing the line onto P4 and seeing a mess as I crossed the line, actually. P1 and P3, that's Shun Ito as he kills a cone, parking it right over the hill. P3, not able to see him in time, runs into the back of him, and that is a very unfortunate end for both of them. They do, of course, still get P1 and P3, but they just get some extra incident points there. So crossing in P4, not upset about it. I think we could have done better, but we really botched that on the first lap. Ryan was cooking at that race, 1:23.4 with his fastest time, and he would only continue to get faster as the week went on. As I said, green in both areas. Love that for me. I absolutely love that for myself. First lap of quali for the next race, and I'm going to botch it Jason Betts style here, completely whiffing the apex on that final corner. The second quali lap was much better around the rest of the lap, but the final corner was actually worse. So I'm actually sliding and missing the apex, which would decimate our run, and we end up crossing with a 24.03, basically the same time as our last race. We could not get a clean quali. Kyle McGinnis behind us, huge shout out to Kyle, lovely gentleman. He's in the Discord. Come hop in and say hi to him. Now, quali was very tight. Despite having a bad lap, we were 1/10 away from like P5. So I, again, felt like I could move forward quite a lot of positions this race. Let's get underway as the green flag flies, and magnificent launch. Goodbye Red Bull, goodbye Max Verstappen. The cars behind got a really good launch as well, so they are following through, Kyle being one of those cars. I have a lot of room to play with ahead, a lot of opportunity to make whatever decisions I want. Opt to go to the inside for T2, and we'll slide up the inside of car number 6 here, as it seems like car number 2 has had a really rough run of T2 and fallen back a few positions, and into T3. We're in a lot of traffic. Car beside me hits the car ahead of me, spins him out. I run into the back of him, lose 2 positions there, including the car that was beside me and behind me. Thankfully, car number 9 battling with car number 12 behind will kind of do some damage control and keep me from losing any more positions. Kyle taking advantage of that, sliding up the inside of T4 and into T5. He is totally clear. 12 is going to sit behind him, and finally everything kind of settles down. Now the car behind or ahead of me has a lot of damage, and it seems like his run was pretty limited by the car ahead of him, and into T6 it's going to be even worse. Really having to overslow on entry there, which gives me a terrible run, and it opens up an opportunity for the Red Bull car. And you could say that this was on me, and you would be right, that was on me. I was kind of following the cars ahead and drove this guy off the track in doing so, which I was very conscious of, I cannot lie. Kyle up the inside, as that did open the door for him. They go too wide through the corkscrew, a little bit of contact pushes Kyle out, and ultimately all that does is pulls the cars behind me further off of me, which was fantastic. Yes, it was a bit of dirty driving, but I I mean, I have no excuse for that. I was very conscious of that. Looking up the inside to just try and scare the car ahead of me works pretty well as he completely blows that corner, but I take zero advantage of that as I killed my own run in doing that. I didn't even try and open up the corner for myself. Through T2 on lap number 2, and he's going to miss the second apex. I realized pretty quickly that this guy was going to be continuously falling off of the car ahead of him as he was missing just about every single apex. So I wanted to get around him as quickly as possible, and through T5, or T4, excuse me, towards T5, decent enough run, not really close enough to look for a move here, but I'm elbows out until the day I die at this moment, flying up the inside, and he's going to allow the space to save himself from being killed. We go too wide towards T6. You really never go too wide into T6, but we're going to do it anyway, and as the inside car, I have a huge advantage there. He kind of gets driven into the dirt. I felt like there was enough space for him there, but it's very, very difficult to judge that as the outside car. His lack of a run there is going to hold that car number 9 up again. Kyle looks to go around the outside, hits car number 9. Car number 9 breaks a little bit late, completely locks up his rears through the corkscrew, and Kyle murders car number 8. So we are wreaking havoc on this lobby right now. No excuses for myself and no excuses for Kyle. Pretty dangerous rejoin for car number 9 there, but I understand it, and nobody was killed, so it worked out pretty well, I guess. We're up into P7. Oscar Berntsen, who is a viewer of the channel and has made huge leaps and bounds since I have started racing with him. I just want to give a huge shout out to him because he has gotten so much faster ahead of us, and by the time we get to lap number 5, we're pretty close on his tail, about half of a second behind him, and this is that range where you start kind of looking to set up a move. You can either wait for a mistake, as I did in that first race from Jacob Blizzard, and it never came, or you can try and engineer something yourself. And I generally, if somebody is like really close to my pace, which Oscar was, I generally try and wait a bit to see if they make a mistake before I try and engineer something. He does go deep through T5, nothing I can really take advantage of there, and through T6 I actually get a pretty poor run. He does go a bit deep though, which is sometimes the advantage of being that car behind, right? You're not under the pressure, so you're not having to push the corners nearly as much. I can kind of sit back, take the corners smoothly, and just rely on slipstream, save my tires, get a decent enough exit, and lose a little bit of time on entry, which is great. Through Rainy Curve, he's missing that apex as well. I would say he's feeling some pressure, and this would be a perfect time to fake a move up the inside of the final corner. Huge dive bomb opportunity. We're right up his tail, but we're not actually going to do it on this lap. Looking back at it right now, I think that that should have been the move that I looked to make. It would have secured the inside for T2 and probably given me that position with a lot of time through the infield to run away with. I then make a mistake through T2, going deep and falling off by a couple of tenths, going from about a tenth behind him to 2-3 tenths, but fairly quickly I'm going to be able to close that up as he is still seemingly feeling some pressure from us. Gets a really good run through T4, and honestly we were catching Sait, so we were closing up the gap to Sait slowly but surely, so I wasn't in a huge rush to make a move. But he goes deep through T5 again, and that opens up an opportunity for me to try something into T6. Maybe not the smartest move, kind of peeping up the inside, honestly more so to see my braking marker than anything else, and all that does is pull me off of him. If I keep looking for these moves and not committing, we're just going to keep losing time to Sait. But I'm kind of gifted in opportunities. He drives deep through Rainy, falls off hugely, and as we go through the final corner, I am right on his tail. Again, opportunity to make a dive, not going to do it, but as he gets through the apex, little bit of rear locking, slides out, and that opens up an opportunity on exit for us, which we didn't really have to do anything for. It's too wide as we cross on to lap number 7, and he's on the outside for T2. Lovely place for me. I just hold it extremely tight, avoid the switchback, just literally parking it on the apex and then full throttling out as much as I can. We're losing time to Sait, but we're gaining track position and we're gaining clean air, so hopefully we can run away from Oscar, and through the next couple of corners we separate ourselves by a few tenths, enough that it kind of got into my head that I didn't really have to worry too much about him. Now the focus is on Sait, who was 3 seconds ahead on that last lap. As we cross that same corner on lap number 8, he's 2.3, so we were running about half of a second faster than him, and I felt like we had the pace to catch. However, unforeseen circumstances happen quite often in racing. It's part of what makes it so beautiful, and what I thought was a 2-horse race between myself and Saeed is about to become a 3-horse race as Philip Hammer slides out completely through T6, going deep into the dirt. That opens up the opportunity for Saeed to go through, and it's going to pull somebody closer to me at the very least. If I could get into slipstream range, that would be great, and I am much closer to that now than I was just a minute ago, as Philip Hammer has slid in a second and a half ahead of me, so almost in my slip range, and I believe that Philip is faster than Saeed. Sometimes Saeed has like monster pace, like insanely high pace, but Philip is pretty consistently very, very quickly, so I felt like he was going to be able to put Saeed under pressure, and this is lap 14. He's been doing exactly that. He is a couple of tenths behind Saeed, and because of the pressure that he's applying, Saeed is not driving fantastically, I would say. At this point, you should really be doing mid to high 23s at the very least, and they were running 24s, so I felt like if I continue to pump out some 23s, I could catch them. We still had 4 laps to go, and I was really waiting for Philip to make a move on Saeed. He was all over his tail, but I mean, to be fair, he is looking to make a move. You can see him diving to the inside there, but it's just not phasing Saeed enough. Saeed is putting up some fantastic defense while still maintaining really good pace, which is very difficult to do. I would say that's more difficult to do than attacking, especially when you have somebody like Philip Hammer right behind you, who we all know is extremely fast. And Saeed is just completely unfazed. He is missing apexes every now and then, and he's not running top pace, but he is running fast enough that there is no real opportunity for Philip there to make a move. And this is opening up the door for me to just constantly pick away at time. I ran a 23.7 on my last lap. They're running 24 flats, so I'm just getting closer and closer. It seems like Philip made another small mistake through T6 there. I'm less than half a second away from Philip. It felt like the opportunity for P4 was going to be there, which is currently held by Saeed. I'm like, okay, they could kill each other. Saeed is missing the apex through Rainy Curve. Like, they're definitely not on their top pace. I have the advantage here. I'm in a great spot. The only problem with that is the fact that time does exist, and I am on that time limit as we are going around the final corner right now to start the penultimate lap. I'm gonna have to get involved in this if I want something to happen that's not just like me crossing my fingers and hoping that something happens, which crossing the line or crossing the final corner on the penultimate lap, so heading on to the final lap, you can see that nothing has happened, and I am just passively sitting back here. I'm letting my lap times fall off. I was just waiting for something to happen, and Philip was all over him, but nothing seemed to be enough until T2 of the final lap, and Philip actually is the one who ends up with the short straw there, sliding out through T2, and we move up into P5. Not what I was expecting to happen. I was really looking for some side-by-side action, and then I could get a better run out of some corner and potentially nip for both of them, but this is fantastic. We have Saeed right ahead of us, 2 tenths ahead of us. We are actually in a position now to make a move on Saeed. We're closer to Saeed than Philip was for a long time, and that is my only focus right now. Heading towards T6, if I get a really good run through here, I could force a 2 wide through the corkscrew. However, I way overbroke that. I don't know why, and just like that, the switch has flipped in my head. I have gone from attacking to defending. I am looking in my mirror constantly. Philip is going to pull up to me pretty quickly as I'm going to be overbraking through the corkscrew, and then through Rainy Curve. I'm getting on throttle really late. It just... You can tell that I'm driving in my mirrors. I'm looking left, I'm looking right, I'm looking in my rear view, and through the final corner, only goal is to defend this position. I'm braking like 50 meters earlier, I'm holding the inside, driving over the apex, and there is nothing Philip can do about that. So I lost my opportunity to fight Saeed, but we are going to cross the line in P5. So we at least finish ahead of Philip, and I was pretty happy with that. I was happy with how my pace was looking. It was better than any of the races previous. Results for this one. Finished ahead of Philip, who is 9K, by the way. Holy crap, I didn't even realize he was that fast. Now, Gun Talstelsen, who's 9.5K, was running damn near consistent 23.1s. He ran like 5 of them this race, which is insane pace. So we definitely weren't in for a win there, but we at least did gain iRating, which is a positive. Now, next race. This one was special because we're battling Ryan, who I've kind of touched on, had ridiculous pace. He was winning like at least 50% of his races here. He was just pulling away from the field, gapping them, and in quali, he gapped me by 3/10. There's a 4/10 gap behind me, so I felt like this was going to be a shootout for the lead. All I had to do was stay in his slipstream and hope that he makes a mistake. That was my goal. I didn't think I was really going to be fast enough to catch him or put pressure on him unless he made a mistake, and it's looking pretty good for us off the bat because they're too wide behind into T2, which should mean that this is a pretty flawless line for us. I am driving a bit defensively into T2 because of that dive that you saw earlier, that one guy, Jason Betts, who dove me from like fucking 4/10 back, so I'm super defensive into T2, which I shouldn't have been. It does pull me off of Ryan quite a bit. He already has a half a second gap, and he got a better exit through T3. He gets a better exit through T4 as well, and it seems like he is just going to run away with this one. Pretty quickly got into my head and kind of shocked my confidence a bit. I knew that it would be a couple of laps until I could settle into my pace, and that's what I was focusing on. I didn't want to push super hard on these cold tires while not being totally confident in my pace. I felt like that is a recipe to kill myself, so I'm kind of just bleeding time on every single corner right now. He's 6/10 ahead going into the corkscrew for the first time, and as we exit the corkscrew, that gap is consistently going to grow. He's going to exit another 10th ahead of us through Rainy Curve. It goes from 7/10 to 8/10, and it was a bit demoralizing to realize this. I mean, looking at the relative, the gap is actually closer to Diego behind me than it was to Ryan ahead. So I am falling off of Ryan with slipstream, and I just kind of accepted at this point that that's what this race was going to be. It turned into practice for me pretty quickly. And to be honest, I think this was better practice than any of the sessions that I had been running. I had been doing like 5 or 6 lap sessions, just working on my own pace, but to have somebody ahead of me who I know is faster and being able to watch them and also watch the relative so I can see where I'm bleeding the time was really, really big for me. It allowed me to be like, okay, I need to push harder here. And you can also see when you're losing that time in specific corners. If I'm losing the time under braking, then, you know, okay, I'm over braking. If I'm losing the time on exit and I'm gaining it on braking, then I'm going in too hot. In this instance, I'm just completely blowing T5, so ignore that. That's one of those things that's like, okay, that's not a problem. That was a mistake for me, but it's not a problem with how I'm lapping. It does put me 1.2 seconds off of Ryan, which is unfortunate, but once he kind of gets out of slipstream, it even makes it more precise. It makes my ability to look at the relative and see the differences in our laps more precise, because if I'm in slip, sometimes it makes me think I'm getting a really good exit, when in reality, all I'm doing is sitting in the slipstream and it's pulling me around. I was able to kind of hang with him around the second half of the track on this lap. I only lost a 10th to him up until the final corner, where I was pretty consistently losing another 10th. I think I was turning too much too early, and basically just turning in too early overall and kind of killing my exit as I was still having to turn on my exit. Lap number 7, the gap hasn't opened up that much, so I was feeling semi-decent in my pace. I was running 23.7s pretty consistently, but on lap number 7, Ryan actually just ran a 23.4 with no slip, which is really fast. And I knew that this would kind of probably be that moment where it's like, okay, we have 10 laps left. He's 2 seconds ahead of you, and he's consistently lapping faster than you. So it's make or break. I either step it up, or he starts making mistakes, or the race is over, and that's it. There's nothing I can really do at that point. I was feeling good about the fact that I was able to hold him around 2 seconds, but that's never going to be enough to catch somebody. So you just have to focus on your own driving, and I felt like I was doing that pretty well. I felt like I was learning. I was definitely getting faster on every lap in different corners that I was really focusing on. Now, into the corkscrew on lap number 8, on board with Ryan, who just throws a little bit too much of the weight to the right over the hill, so the compression hits, it snaps the car around, and he goes into a complete slide, saves it gorgeously, does not lose that much time, but it does put him side by side with me into Rainy Curve, and everything is cracked open at this point. Now we're able to race, and I am in front going into the penultimate corner. He is close enough to make a dive. I definitely got a good run on him, but I'm not totally out of range for him to pry something open. Thankfully, he doesn't do that, and I am able to maintain the lead heading into T2 onto lap number 9. under huge pressure. He has every opportunity here to do whatever he wants. Obviously, I want to hold the inside. I leave a little bit of space there initially, and he kind of peeps for it and changes his mind at the last second, goes super deep, actually ends up locking his brakes and going so deep into T2 that he's in the dirt. Huge moment for me. Huge moment for me. This gives me a gap to work with, and that is, oh my God. So it's not a big gap. It's 2 seconds. But it's something. And if I can just maintain that 2 seconds the same way that I was maintaining it before, then I should be fine. However, the mental side of racing comes into play pretty quickly, and I start over braking every corner. I've already lost a tenth to him. Make that 2 tenths through T5. Through T6, this is somewhere I noticed he was definitely faster than me on average, but I think he also got into the dirt quite a bit more than me, quite a bit more often, and I think that that's what happened on this instance. I think he kind of overdrove that corner, and that was something that ultimately would end up, at least on this lap, saving my life, as he gains 2 tenths in 2 corners, but then he dropped those 2 tenths right back. Now he was super fast through Rainy Curve and the final corner. He was consistently much faster than me. He's down to 1.6 seconds now, so he is making up time like no one's business. I am way under driving, braking super early, so early that I actually almost go deep on my exit because I got on throttle too early as we cross onto lap number 10. A long way to go. 9 laps with him, a second and a half behind me. I would say he's about a tenth or two out of getting a little bit of benefit from slipstream, and I'm deep into T2. He must have been 2 because the gap didn't really change, thank the Lord. And I am going to just let the laps run for a second so you can see. It might be kind of hard to see, as I do believe I was still under driving in my technique a bit. I was probably over slowing, but I felt so locked in. It was crazy. This is the most locked in I have ever felt while driving, and I love that when somebody faster is behind you, but you have a chance, like, this is when it comes out. When it needs to come out, you lock the fuck in and you get the shit done. We had a really good run through T6. I am every single lap through the corkscrew. I am really focusing on carrying as much speed as possible through there and getting a straight exit. We're still losing time to him, but I'm feeling really good. Like, everything felt like it was hooking up. The car felt like it was on rails. The apexes were just coming to me through the final corner. I'm trying to brake a bit later and a bit harder and get like a sharper exit, a straighter exit. Do go a bit wide in this instance, but I at least I felt like my mind was in the right place. I was thinking of doing the right things. Even if I wasn't always executing it correctly, I was understanding the track, and I think that following him and trying to chase him down did that for me. Big mistake into T2, as that was one I was still figuring out throughout this race, but it's one that I think it's safe to say that I actually did figure that corner out. We're super deep through T3 as well. The pressure is kind of creeping back in. The lock-in-ness is getting unlocked. There's like a crack. There's like somebody trying to pick the lock that has me locked in. He is a second behind me. He's well within slipstream. However, as they're trying to unlock that door from the other side, I've got a lock on the inside, and I'm locking it on the inside, baby. I'm staying locked in as much as I can. It's not a great lock. It's actually a bike lock, but it's enough that, you know, if they try to open the door, it might crack open, but it's not opening all the way. And that little crack in the door, he's not big enough to get in there. So I was honestly so under pressure at this point, and we still had a long way to go. It's 18 laps. Why did they have to make this race so freaking long? And on board with Ryan, you can see that he is just nailing everything. Like, he was hitting every apex. He had the rotation of the car down to a science. But final corner, small slide from him. It seems small, and it was small, but it was huge to me because I saw a tenth go up on the relative for that little smidge, and that gave me enough to know, okay, I can do this. I can do this. We have a long way to go. I'm deep into T2. It's okay, because there are points in the track where I think I was faster, namely the first section of this whole first half of the track up until T6. I felt like I was reliably, even when I was making mistakes, I was keeping that same gap, and when I wasn't making mistakes, I was actually growing it, which I really needed, because he was way faster than me from this corner onward in basically every single corner. I was consistent, but I was consistently 2 or 3 tenths down. Every now and then I would push it a little bit, but I didn't want to do anything major. And through T6, I would say that is a huge corner in this battle. And every time I saw that relative go up, it was like a wave of cool air was hitting my face and blowing down my shirts and out my pant holes. I was loving it. Through Rainy Curve, this is one that I never got onto his level for. I don't think I ever will. He just has some sort of innate understanding with that corner that I do not. So he would catch me every single lap through Rainy Curve. He would gain time. That was a given. Huge mistake for me. Through the final corner, thank the Lord, he did something very similar. He slid out, so he still gains a lot of time on entry because I locked up on entry, but him sliding out on the exit kind of neutralizes the run, so he's 7/10 behind us. There is still so long to go in this race, and this is where I started thinking about just unlocking the bike lock that I had on the inside of the door, because I'm gonna really have to push from this point on. And you can see that I'm driving off of the track in T3, and he is not that far behind me whatsoever. I'm slightly missing my apex for T4 as well. Whew, I was feeling it. It's hard to describe the emotions that you feel when you're in this situation unless you have been in this situation. It's amazing, and it's like, it's honestly the best thing in the world. Now, keep an eye on the relative through T6. Big mistake for him, baby. Big mistake. He loses, what, 2/10 there. It's not that big of a mistake, but yes, dude. I was so seeing him slide around in my rearview mirror. What that said to me was not only that, that lets me breathe through Rainy Curve, which he's already caught back up to me, but it means that his tires are starting to go a little bit. Those slides add up on a track like this. Like one slide, two slide, you start seeing slides everywhere. You'll start seeing slides on that exit of the final corner. You'll start seeing slides through T2, through T6 especially. This is like a really important thing for me to keep tabs on, and it gives me new hope. I'm running still 23.7s, like really consistently 23.7s. He was usually running a bit faster than me. I would say 2/10 faster than me, 23.5s, 23.4s, but I was just there enough that he wasn't quite able to break under half of a second yet. And even if he did get under half of a second, I had the safety of knowing that dirty air through T6, through Rainy Curve, it can make a big difference because you're going so fast. You need every bit of downforce, and as that car behind, especially if your rear tires are already overheated, which has seemed to be just from the bit of sliding that I was seeing him do, it could be enough that we're basically safe. I just have to not make a mistake. If I don't make a mistake, I felt like I could hold this gap. 6/10 heading into Rainy Curve. Keep an eye on that, and you will see it tumble down to 5/10 every single lap. I was basically just prepping everywhere else in the lap to break away from him through Rainy Curve. Now, he must have made some mistake because it's actually back up to 7/10. Big moment for us as we go through the final corner with a decent gap. And it's so weird how the laps just fly past. Like, I remember looking down and being like, holy shit, I have 10 laps left to go. But now there's only 4, including this one. And you just get in this zone. It's like, watching it back now, I'm saying a lot more of what I was thinking than I was actually thinking at the time, if that makes sense. Because I was just apex, exit, braking, apex, exit, rotation. Like, oh man, it is the best feeling in the world, dude. Racing is amazing. iRacing is amazing. If I could win this, it would be amazing, and I would brag to it about Ryan because he prides himself on being like the absolute GOAT of this track, and there's no denying that. He is extremely fast here. He's like 8K, 9K pace very easily. He hangs with the best of them. I'm doing everything I can here though. 23.5 on my last lap. That is my best clean lap ever, I think, on this track. By probably a 10th at least. I was feeling good. I felt like I was really starting to understand everything except for fucking Rainy Curve, dude. Fuck that corner. Everything else I felt really good on, and I think Ryan's tires were to the point now where he was losing time even in Rainy Curve. So we're just cruising. I mean, we're not cruising. We are absolutely sweating our balls off, but we just need to not make a mistake. And big mistake from Ryan again through the final corner, which is massive because that denies what would have been a decent run. with slipstream on it and saves us ultimately a ton of time. On to the penultimate lap, and Ryan is still on that gap. We're still driving off the track as well. We're pushing really hard. I knew that we didn't have long to go, but I was trying not to think about it too much. Ryan is still sliding on the exits of corners that you typically don't see yourself sliding on, and he's 1.2 seconds behind. Like, we were making big moves, baby. Big moves. We held a half a second gap for like 6 laps, so we should be able to do this for 1 lap, right? For 1 lap, that's all we have to do. What is the gap now? As we head into T2, it's probably about a second, and I'm gonna miss the apex. I'm gonna go deep into T2, unfortunately, and that gap is about a second. It's actually closing on exit, as I'm sure he did get a better exit than me. It's under a second as we go through T6. One of his better corners when he hits it, and I fuck it up for the first time. I hadn't really slid like that ever, and that is going to bleed time all of the way up into the corkscrew. I'm getting in my head. I'm getting in my head right now. I'm getting in my head of my past head. Oh, dude, I feel like oh man. You know what? Actually, I was thinking in the moment, I was like, I can't believe I'm gonna bottle this. That's what I was thinking. In this moment, I was thinking, I can't believe I'm gonna bottle this. I have 1 corner left. Why am I thinking that? Just lock in. And through the corner, I'm braking early, which I shouldn't be doing, slightly missing the apex, but it is enough. It's enough. I fought through, psyching my own self out, and I'm crossing the line, although barely ahead of him. He had a monster lap with a victory, baby. We crossed with the lead. We ran a 24-1 on that last lap. He ran a 23-3. He was flying. But we stayed in front, dude. Oh my god, I love this track. I love this track. Ryan, thank you for the race. And if you ask him, he'll say that he gifted me this win. But honestly, even if that's true, I'm happy. That was such a good race and a good way to push myself. I haven't done that in a long time, and I loved it. If you guys enjoyed this and want to see more, check out the link in the description, the video on your screen, and subscribe.